It's Friday night, November 5th, 2005. I was spending the night at my great aunt and uncle's house because my parents were at home trying to I don't know, fix their marriage or something. And it's 4:30 p.m. and I flip through the channels to land on Cartoon Network and find Teen Titans in its final season, season 5, episode 6, specifically the part where Raven has to spend time with Melvin, Timmy, and Teether and bring them away from the clutches of the Brotherhood of Evil. But along their journey, she bonds with the kids, and by the end of the episode, she's protecting them and spending so much time learning of their childish ignorance and innocence that she truly cares for them. Then after that episode is done, my aunt comes and flips the channel to Nickelodeon, and I see Avatar: The Last Airbender on screen. Episode 17 specifically, where the gang goes to the Northern Air Temple, and eventually Aang just kind of invites the Fire Nation army to arrive at the temple, and using the tools of the modernized Air Temple, Team Avatar, with the help of some of the adapted airbenders, take down the Fire Nation squad and protect the temple. For the rest of the night, I just flip back to the Cartoon Network channel and find a random episode of the show called Dragon Ball Z to fall asleep to back when my bedtime was 8 o'clock. Next morning, I wake up and eat some oatmeal cream pies with my pawpaw and go the rest of the day doing some stupid kid shit. When my mom comes to pick me up, my cousin tells me about a show airing that night on something called Adult Swim called The Boondocks. And as a 2-year-old, I had no earthly idea what the fuck he was talking about. But thinking back to that very moment now, I realized that during those years, specifically from like 04 to 2010, I was witness to the single greatest era of television in arguably the last 25 years. You see, today I want to tell you a little tale about the rise of animated masterpieces. Wait a second, the beginning of the rise actually starts way before 2004, so let me take you to the back of the bus because we're going back to 1937. And why, you may ask? Because it's in 37 where we see the first steps of the future animation uprising that we are witness to. January 9th, 1937, the first solo Donald Duck cartoon, Don Donald, premieres, produced by Walt Disney Productions. Walt Disney would premiere an animated film, short, or show every single month until December 21st, when Disney's first animated feature, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, premiered. It became a box office hit. Disney would ride this moment for... I have to take this. Sorry. Hello? You talking to me? You, Caleb? Oh. So what's this about World War I? That's right. All those people of all different ages who got Snow White to its smashing box office success were now fighting Nazis. So of course, when they came back from the war, the economy was booming. Disney was struggling, however, and had reverted back to a life living off of shorts like Steamboat Willie. It would be a while until Disney would see their next smash hit, but they eventually did with 101 Dalmatians in 1961. Now yes, I'm skipping over some things, but the main thing to understand is, despite the fact that the audience for Snow White was more diverse than cartoons that we would later see, it was still mainly children, and as a result of that, when those children grew up over time and eventually got drafted in, the World War, when they came back from the war, they attributed Snow White, and as a result Disney, and as a larger result animation, to being something of their past, something of their childhood. Now yes, this is an oversimplification, but it makes sense considering the fact that at this time in history, there's a gap from when most people watched Snow White and whenever they came back from the war or they got out of recession, whichever hit you first as a 1940s American. So Disney started to be attributed to something of their past, and with the introduction of the Flintstones, Top Cat, and the Jetsons coming around this time, clearly aimed at children with their programming times, length of featured films, and just marketing starting to shift towards the children of the American nuclear families of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, animation would remain something only consumed in your childhood before you'd graduate to real cinema, like Birth of a Nation. A lot of this would shift once again, however, when more CGI integrated movies would air, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which would help blend the animated characters of people's childhood and the quote real life entertainment of the late 80s and 90s. Animation would continue to grow, and Disney would also continue to dominate with basically just a kids market until the mid 90s, when we saw the emergence of... Now this is strictly my personal theory because I couldn't find much to actually back this up as fact, But with Pixar's first ever movie being such a smashing success, even yes, just with the children market, in the fucking Toy Story, and going on to be nominated for an Academy Award for storytelling, this was the first domino to show that animation would start being respected and potentially be the avenue for more diverse stories to be told within the coming decade. As Pixar would continue to release smash hit after smash hit, all garnering critical acclaim, more studios and networks would start to invest in their own animated projects, with DreamWorks Studios, Paramount Animation, Nickelodeon, and Cartoon Network doubling down on new animation projects that actually told stories that didn't just have to be digestible for children. Add to Pixar's dominance the influx of Japanese cartoons that received licensing deals and got redubbed in the West, like Yu Yu Hakusho, Dragon Ball Z, and the previously highest grossing animated film ever of Spirited Away. And the world of animation was beginning to lose its label of 13 and under, and it was beginning to gain the label of, well, just being the best shows on television at the time. In just the years 2004, 5, and 6, widely popular and praised shows and movies like American Dad, Robot Chicken, The Last Airbender, The Incredibles, Madagascar, Chicken Little, The Boondocks, Over the Hedge, Cars, Justice League Unlimited, The Polar Express, I don't care bro, I love this movie, and Danny Phantom all premiered. That's a list of some of the most highly remembered, universally loved, and just diverse works of animation in the last 2 decades, all premiering within the first 3 years of this era. With art like this coming out and the creation of Toonami and Toonzai, shout out to CW, introducing Western audiences to more diverse stories through the medium of anime, giving us the Big Three, DBZ, Bakugan, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Sonic, and a lot more, this led to a new wave of kids growing up on animation like no generation has ever seen before. And because of its complete and utter dominance on just the kid industry, eventually even parents and critics began to realize the brilliance of shows like Samurai Jack, The Incredibles, Kung Fu Panda, Star Wars The Clone Wars, Avatar The Last Airbender, and so many more other shows and movies that have stood the test of time and become masterpieces of a generation built through animation. This era would last until the time of novel adaptations would come in the early 2010s and ruin all fantasy media forever, in a time period that could be summarized with the phase of, but have you read the novels? And yeah, animation wouldn't be the same again until 2013 when a little show called Rick and Morty would release, but we can always talk about that next month. In the meantime, watch my other videos, including this one on Chainsaw Man in my series called One Unchained Moment, where I basically have a series going on with a bunch of other Anitubers and YouTubers that participated in talking about one of our favorite returning manga and anime that will be premiering later this year in Chainsaw Man. Also, check out my other videos if you enjoy. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch y'all guys later. Peace.